So now I'm going to welcome up Byron White. Byron has been part of the Compact family for many years. He is an author with a book coming out with us in the spring. He has just been named as our senior fellow to help with roll out our campus action planning. He's been in higher education for 2 decades in multiple administrative functions. He is a former newspaper journalist and community development professional and a senior consultant with Sova Solutions. So welcome, Byron.
Good morning. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to sort of preview a little bit of the book I've written in support of, with, and guidance from Campus Compact. And really building on a lot of, it really touches on a lot of the themes I think that we've talked about this week here at Compact 26. Like many of you, I was mesmerized by Monday's general session and the conversation among Adam Bush, Stanley Howard, and Ronaldo Hudson. But Adam, who's right here, the president of College Unbound, said something about the intersection between education and community that really stuck with me. He said, it's not that care is a mode of learning. Learning is a mode of care. In other words, the bigger idea is care. It's not a byproduct of learning. Learning is just one way to experience it. And I think we get that backwards sometimes in higher education when it comes to community engagement. In our world, the big idea is learning. Our overarching value proposition is that if you choose our institution over others and allow us to impart the knowledge that we have in the manner we've determined and verify that instruction with a degree, you will be successful. And it's in the course of fulfilling that promise that we then look for ways to interject community and community engagement as a learning tool, as a byproduct of our research. At our best, that effort is also mutually beneficial to the community. But make no mistake, learning is the bigger driver. It's a student-centric focus. And it has worked for higher education for decades. Throughout the 20th century, we dramatically expanded college access across class, gender, race, and geography by promising prospective students we would create an enjoyable experience for them that would lead to a degree and ultimately personal prosperity. The problem is that that formula is now producing diminishing returns. For a host of cultural, economic, and technological reasons, those promises, at the very least, are under tremendous scrutiny. And there's evidence that confidence in our student-centric value proposition is declining. Now, most of us here imagine a different kind of proposition, one where colleges and universities, as Campus Compact's vision statement declares, aim for an equitable, just, and sustainable future where higher education acts as a public good, fostering transformative partnerships between campuses and communities. And yet there too we struggle to fully achieve the transformative societal impact that we aspire, to which we aspire. And that's why we've shown up here this week in record numbers, right? To interrogate our endeavors and discover new strategies and recommit our efforts. But perhaps one lesson in all of this is that we really have reached a point where trying harder is not the solution. What if breaking through to the next level of societal impact calls for us to flip the script, as Adam suggested, and make community care the higher purpose? What if the greatest benefit of higher education today isn't enrolling students, conferring them with degrees, and launching them into the world with the hope that they will do good for themselves and society? What if it isn't primarily educating students at all? What if the highest purpose of colleges and universities today is a community-centric imperative to solve society's most formidable challenges. And educating students and conducting research are our greatest assets for accomplishing that. I'm not talking about abandoning student-centered endeavors. I'm saying that the student-centric paradigm we find ourselves trapped in really, doesn't really center students' needs or even preferences. It centers our need for students. And it is our increasingly desperate, hyper-individualized pursuit of students in the face of a declining pool of traditionally so-called college-ready prospects that has led us down a slippery slope of promising economic prosperity, essentially the job of your dreams. It's not a promise that we can deliver, not consistently, not with integrity. Peter Capelli, who was at the Wharton School at Penn, puts it plainly in his book, Will College Pay Off? He says, colleges have been happy to assure families that we can deliver good careers. The problem is we don't know if those assurances are credible. Alternatively, the community-centric path is a full-on, all-in prioritization of the democratic public purpose that we claim to have, but seem to practice largely from the margins. And it is in that pursuit that we can set students up for the lifelong learning, support, and foundation they will need to be successful in life, something we're really good at. But too often, community engagement at institutions of higher education is a desired byproduct of the cumulative individual successes, which we cultivate, of well-meaning faculty and students. Yes, good work materializes from that, sometimes even great work, but it limits the prospects for long-term, sustainable, transformational impact. So we imagine a community-centric reality, but we are constrained by a student-centric urgency. And it's an urgency that is being met with growing skepticism. So that's the premise of my book. The community-centric path to rebuilding trust in higher education. It asserts that if higher education is going to thrive over the next half century, it will have to be transformed, not reformed. The book poses that the evolution from a student-centric to community-centric purpose is an emerging step in the transformation, just as the evolution from faculty-centric to student-centric was 100 years ago. I arrive at this perspective through an examination of higher ed's history and current trends and organizational change theories, and interviews with about 40 higher ed professionals, many of whom are here, including 8 presidents, and several case studies of institutional practices. But I was also informed by my experience as a former newspaper journalist who spent many years right across the street from here as an editor and administrator at the Chicago Tribune. I watched that centuries-old, knowledge-based, civic-oriented industry collapse because of disruptive technologies, a disintegrating business model, and declining public trust. Sound familiar? We tried tactical fixes like putting the newspaper online, but the real shift was deeper. The business stopped being about producing newspapers as a single trusted source of news and became more about helping people navigate information. And newspapers missed the opportunity to lead the way. Higher education is undergoing a similar change, I think. Society's demand of us is shifting from being the exclusive generator of knowledge to being premier navigators of learning. And that requires a community-centric outlook. It requires deep interdependence with community partners, not only to pursue scholarship, but also in the way we use our facilities and raise money and recruit students. It requires recognizing that more knowledge exists beyond campus than on campus. It requires elevating learning that is not only experiential, but also produces tangible impact. It requires joining partners at their tables, not just inviting them to ours. Pursuing a community-centric future is not an abandonment of our educational imperative. Rather, it frees us from the spin cycle that reinforces students as transactional customers. At a community-centric institution, learners are offered an opportunity to contribute their assets and obtain new competencies essential to their civic and career pursuits, primarily through the compelling and durable context of solving community problems. In this way, learning is a mode of community care, which unleashes innovations like College Unbound's cohort learning model, which envisions education as a movement that prioritizes lived experience and problem solving. Or Paul Quinn College's Village program, where admitted students have agency to enroll others with them as part of the institution's quest to eradicate intergenerational poverty. Or the reimagining of college admissions as an enterprise that places belonging over selectivity through direct admissions, as is happening at Augsburg University. You know, as I've looked out during this talk, I see a few heads, you know, a little affirmation, and that's good. You should buy the book. It will be released on May 20th by Rutledge Campus Compact, and I know folks here will make sure you hear about it. Now, some of you are thinking this is crazy talk. You might be right, but you should buy the book to challenge your assumptions. Either way, it will sharpen your convictions. And some of you are like, I'm really not sure what I think about this. Well, guess what? Absolutely, you should buy the book. So I just want to say there are many people in this room who've contributed to my insights directly and indirectly through your leadership, your accomplishments, your guidance, and I'm extremely appreciative of that. I'm especially grateful to my colleagues at Campus Compact, especially Bobby and Nicole, whose support provided me the space to conduct these interviews and gather these case studies and do this work. And to my editor, Clayton Hurd. You know, Clayton reminded me through this process of writing this book that none of us has answers. We're all trying to figure it out. But he assured me that if I could thoughtfully provoke curiosity and exploration and instigate imagination, I will have made a small contribution to our collective work. I hope this book does that, and I look forward to engaging with all of you in the coming months around it. Thank you so much.